Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Pro Landscaper TV. Thank you very much for joining us today. We're here every Tuesday at 10 a.m. for around 40 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer. Well done, Adam, for bringing your mug. Pro Landscape website has all the latest information on the up-and-coming programmes, and also it has an easy link on the catch-up, so if you've missed any of the previous shows. Next week, we'll be speaking to a few of the past winners of the Pro Landscapers 30 under 30s Next Generation, catching up with them about their careers and also getting their perspective of the industry and what they think can help improve the industry. So that's next Thursday, the 9th of March at 10 a.m. But today I'm really delighted to be joined by Adam White, Director of Davies White Limited, the Chartered Landscape Architects, and is currently, and I love the title, and I have to say, currently the immediate past president of the LI. It could only be the LI, couldn't it, for that one? But Adam is a very, very good designer, works a lot with children in landscapes and gardens. Adam and Andre, Adam's partner, have got RHS gold medals. They won the PBC People's Choice. So very, very skilled. And it's great that you joined us, Adam. I really, really enjoyed it. We've got so much to get through and I've got lots of things to talk about. I guess most people know you from the LI, but let's talk about Davies White to start with, and just give us a little, how did it come about? How long has it been going? Types of projects you're working on?
Yeah, well, many years ago, I worked for the environmental charity Groundwork, and I worked in Yorkshire, in Lincolnshire, then London, and I was seconded to, I was about to leave actually. I was going to go and work in private practice, and I was about to leave, and they seconded me from Southeast London over to West London for 6 months, and I thought, well, I'll give it a go. And I went over and I met the team, and I met Andre, and we just clicked, and we had this same vision for what public realm should be and how important it was to put children at the heart of these public realm spaces. And we then got the opportunity to create the Playscape Garden at Hampton Court in 2007. That got gold and it got People's Choice. Didn't get Best in Show, that went to Beardshaw. And but we really got a taste for the potential of landscape within play. And then we applied that to all these playground projects we were working on. And that's where our journey started back then. And soon afterwards, we left Groundwork and set our own practice up, but with the same core values of engaging the end user in the design process to foster ownership. And that was in 2009.
Why did you leave then? Did you just want to do it on your own?
Well, we were working for Groundwork London, and so we were just working on London-centric projects, and we got these opportunities to work in Scotland, in Wales, Northern Ireland, and all over the UK. And we were offered a project with the National Trust at a place called Lyme Park in Cheshire, where they filmed Pride and Prejudice, the BBC version of it, where Darcy's ripping his clothes off. That one. You'll remember that one, Jim. And so we got to create this project in this historic woodland there, and it was just this great opportunity to work all over the UK, focusing on child-centered design.
So is most of your design around children, or have you spread out and done more? Or
well, we believe that if you just kind of take the children out of the equation, it's about finding your own inner child. And we quite often forget how to play when we get a bit older. And some people's inner child isn't very deep. Mine is pretty much bubbling at the surface. And we need to encourage everybody to reconnect with the great outdoors and appreciate nature, and then they will protect it in the future. And you've just got to start young. So we were really frustrated in how badly designed some play spaces were, and no one was really embracing that. And we kind of just by default, we ended up designing children's nature play spaces, really. It was never a conscious effort to do that, but that's what we're known for, and we absolutely love doing it now.
So when you drive around and you look at these new housing estates with these concrete playgrounds and things like that, what's your thoughts and you know, how can we educate it to be more than what they currently are?
Well, I believe everybody who's watching this, if you're involved in design, management, or anything to do with landscape, you have the opportunity to help reconnect children with nature. There are great opportunities out there. I mean, I remember some of my childhood memories. They're not in a playground. You know, they're walking along a narrow wall through the shopping precinct, holding my mum's hand going through. I can vividly remember it. So play shouldn't be confined to these playgrounds. So whenever you get the opportunity, be it a private garden or a public space, is just add a bit of sense of humor and a bit of fun, and try and just think how you can make it playful for everybody.
So another big thing for Davies White was Catherine the Duchess of Cambridge Garden at Chelsea, and then at Hampton Court. How did that all come about, and how excited were you when you knew you were going to do it?
Yeah, yes. Well, that was a life experience, I'll tell you. So
A good one.
a phone call. We got a phone call. I haven't really spoken about this before. We got a phone call from the RHS saying there was somebody very important would be interested in collaborating with us on creating a child-centered garden all around nature. So Andre and I were we had 24 hours of guessing who that might be. Was it J.K. Rowling? Was it David Williams? We had no idea who it was going to be. And eventually we were told it was Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Cambridge. And we both looked at each other. And the one thing that the light bulb moment was, we knew how passionate she was about early years. And we also knew how passionate she was about mental health and well-being. So when we first met her to talk about this project, we were all on the same page. She had a great understanding of nature deficit disorder. And we talked about plant blindness and the importance of giving everybody the opportunity to spend a little bit of time outdoors every day. So that made it incredibly easy. And we didn't know at first whether she would be more of an ambassador for the project or how hands-on she would be. And we soon found out she was well up for designing and getting involved in speccing. So it was proper full-on session sketching, doodling, making models, visit tree nurseries and stone quarries, all those sort of things that normally it was just Andre and I, and suddenly there were three of us doing it. So it was a really involved process.
So it wasn't that you done the plan and she just ticked it. She actually asked some questions and come up with some of her own inputs. And
we were there lots of scribbles and sketches and sharing lots of mood board images initially of what the tone of the garden would be. And what was really important to us, she was very interested in not just the show garden at Chelsea and Hampton, but what would be the legacy. So there's the permanent Back to Nature garden, which is at RHS Wisley, and there is also the NHS Back to Nature garden, which is in Dawlish down in Devon. So those two projects were very much part of the whole design process. So really it was 4 Back to Nature gardens that we designed together and created.
And did you feel the pressure?
Like never before, Jim. We'd never done a garden at Chelsea, and we'd done one at Hampton in 2007. We returned in 2017. Many of you will remember the wild garden we created for the Cordwell charity along with Zaflora in 2017. And that was our 10-year anniversary. And Monty asked us, how long will it be before we see you again? And we said, another 10 years. But then within 2 years, we were asked not to go back to Hampton, but to go to Chelsea. So we joke, the Duchess, myself and Andre, in quiet moments, that we'd all look at each other and go, we don't really know what we're doing here, what we're doing at Chelsea. And there'd all be the big names, the Mark Gregory's, you know, the Andy Sturgeons, the seasoned pros on Main Avenue. And there we were on Main Avenue. But we were very lucky to be supported by the team from the RHS and the outdoor room helping create that garden. So we had a really strong team around us, making sure that it was quality that was created at the end of the day.
And she was quite hands-on on the build?
Well, exactly. So she was going to come down for 1 or 2 days of the build. And I think she came down for 12 days in the end. It was, she kind of got the bug and came down and helped with the setting out and creating that stream and the planting that went into it. There were a couple of media days where photography was happening when she was down, but she was down a number of days that no one knew. She kind of sneaked under the radar and got stuck in that garden. Yeah, it was great fun.
Fantastic. Great publicity for the industry as well. So that was a massive.
It was really good. It was funny. The people working on the garden would say to the Duchess, "Excuse me, what should we call you?" It was one of the, you know, and she'd just go, "Catherine," and they go, "All right, thank you very much." Thank you very much.
Fantastic. I can imagine David Dodd tipping his hat to her every time he walked past.
Oh, he's a seasoned pro with the Royals, David, though, isn't he?
Very good. And I guess one of the things, before we sort of talk about what current projects you're working on, how did you cope with the amount of pressure that being president of the LI for those 2 years, it must have had effect on your business and how you ran your business? I know Andre must have taken quite a bit of strain and
she did. She was fantastic through that. So 2019 was bonkers. So I became president in July 2018, and I set my manifesto out. And I was reading before we were meeting this morning, I was looking at what my manifesto was as what I hoped to do. And it was all around connecting society with nature and the mental health benefits of landscape. And I think it was a pro landscaper interview, who would be your dream person to meet? And I'd said Sir David Attenborough. And as many people know, that actually happened. Yeah. But 2019, it was kind of the stars aligned. So I was already president. Then we got the Back to Nature Garden at Chelsea and the other 3 ones that went with it. And, you know, you wouldn't plan that in your wildest dreams, because there was a lot of, it was 7 days a week. And everybody that knows me saw how hard I worked day and night, weekends, to try and make sure I fulfilled every commitment I gave. And being president is a full-on job. It really is. It was a great opportunity, and I seized every opportunity that came along with that position. And I don't think there was an event or a conference that I turned down to speak at to promote what we were doing, because I was determined to make sure, for once, the Landscape Institute was listening and engaging with all our industry partners, which I believe it hadn't done for a long, long time.
I agree. I'm going to come back on that, because I agree on that. So did your day-to-day business suffer then, or not, or did it just, you know, how did you sort of backfill what you do?
Well, I was very lucky. I mean, Andre, you know, took up a lot of the slack, I have to say. So she worked incredibly hard behind those scenes for my years as president. And our team is very small. We've only got a couple of people that support us. So we just had to adjust the way we worked, and I did a lot of evenings and weekends. And I suppose what was really good is that my focus as president was very much in tune with what we were doing at Davies White there. So from a business sense, none of it, being president and the Back to Nature Garden, did we see a direct impact on our business, as in, we've got loads of phone calls. We bought for Chelsea a burner phone, and I gave it my mum and a notepad, and I said, Mum, this phone's going to ring when people see us on telly. 4 million people. It never rang once, nothing. We got no inquiry, no email, nothing. And I think now, a couple of years on from that, and my profile as president, it is starting to have a little bit of an impact, and we've got some great opportunities and projects that are working on right now, and we believe it's probably a result of those things.
Let's talk about some of the projects you're now working on then. What's in the pipeline? What's coming up?
Well, one that we've worked on, and it was all embargoed, and we're seasoned pros at what we can and can't say, and that's called the Blossom Project, and that's the National Memorial Garden for COVID victims and those families that have suffered through this tragic period. And we've designed this garden in collaboration with our friends at the Edible Bus Stop. So that makes our design team. And then we've brought in other creatives, artists, sculptors, metal workers, a real eclectic mix of people to help create the Blossom Garden. That's going right in the heart of the Queen Elizabeth Park in London. ID Verdi are building it. So Alistair is the project manager there. The Olympic Park team, so Ruth Holmes is involved there. It's a brilliant project. I think the client team, when we have our Zoom meeting, there's 15 people attending that, being led by the GLA, by the Mayor of London. So it's a really special project. There's no big name involved. It's about people. It's about genuine people. And last Friday, it was announced that the National Trust, who are one of the partners, are now rolling it out across the UK to have these Blossom projects, which is wonderful. A real bit of positivity with landscape and horticulture at the heart of it.
And when so you kicked off the design on that, have you? And when does it start to be built? And when
it's on site. It's on site right now. Right. I'll post some images on social media this week. If you look at at
Yeah.
Davies_White. I'll share. So I haven't really put a great deal on, but I'll put a little bit on. And the edible bus stop on social media, I know Mac has posted some films of it. So it's designed, signed off, the furniture's all been fabricated. Later on today, we're going over to do a site visit. It's one of the treats, actually get to leave our office and go. It's the only project we get to travel and go outside. Ashwell Reclaimed Timber are providing the timber, so we're going over to their yard. And yeah, it's all starting to happen, so it'll be completed very soon.
Excellent. And other projects? I picked up somebody. You've got one in your own town for the first time.
Oh yeah. So we've been based in Kingston now, which is where I live, for over a decade, and we've not delivered a project for the council here or anybody on our home turf since 2008 when we did a project at Tolworth. But as part of the greener recovery, about how what's the new normal going to look like after COVID, we know the impact on our high streets is huge. And one of the things I did as president was launch the High Streets Task Force, led by the Institute of Place Management. And Kingston's one of those first projects that has really embraced the philosophy of looking at its open spaces and making them more accessible, inclusive, focused around nature. So one's on the riverside and one's in the old memorial gardens in the town centre. So we're running 50% of the project is about engagement and listening to people. So last night we had the first public engagement session, which was brilliant. And we're going to carry on listening, and they'll really, these decisions and input will affect the design principles and the community themes that go into these spaces. There's a great opportunity for our industry post-COVID, because nature has to be one of the greatest things that we can offer anyone.
Yeah, very much so. Again, right. So, if I can, we'll move on to the LI now. And I have to say, I want to say well done and congratulations, because I think you've done an amazing job at the LI. I think you really turned the perception of where it was maybe a little bit aloof, a little bit, I wouldn't say old-fashioned, but a little bit out its reach. And I think you managed superbly to integrate the whole of the LI and the concept and the idea back into the industry as a whole. So I think that's a really hats off to you. And I hope you know that people do think you've done a superb job on that. And I think it was a massive thing for your energy, your enthusiasm, your ability to connect different people. I think it was absolutely superb. And I just wondered now, how do you feel moving to the side? And what are you, how are you still being linked to it? How are you still keeping together on it? And
so it's a good point, Jim. So the end of my presidency was on Zoom, basically, and all these other online platforms. I kind of got the tail end. My presidency was taken away, and I had a number of events I was supposed to be speaking at, and they didn't happen. And then Jane came in as the new president, and she's our lockdown president, and she's done the entire thing from her attic and done it brilliantly, I might add, picking up from myself. At the end of June last year, I was kind of ready to hand over the reins. I was exhausted at the end of the 2 years, and it's a bit like a long distance relationship. You need to know there's an end. You need to know the start and the middle and the end, and that's exactly what I knew with my presidency, which meant I could just give it real gusto and seize these opportunities and keep cross-referencing that manifesto. When I set it out, and I spoke to you right at the start, and what people don't realize is that you do a year as president-elect. So that was 2017, and that was my wild garden at Hampton Court. So I was still on the trustee, on the committee. I was still involved right at the start, along with my practice work. Then I had my 2 years of presidency, throw the mix of the Back to Nature with the Duchess of Cambridge. Then my pen pal got in touch with me and said, yeah, I'd love to support you, which was great. And I've got the letter just pinned behind my computer here from Sir David Attenborough. I'm like, flipping heck. So that was 2019. Then I had 2020, the end of that as my presidency. And then you've got another year. So I'm still a trustee of the Landscape Institute. So I attend all the board meetings, all the advisory council meetings. I'm there in the wings supporting Jane. So I'm still attending lots of meetings and helping with the operational side at the Institute. And then the 1st of July is when I fully step away and I'm not involved as a trustee anymore. But, you know, I've got my finger in a few pies there. I want to make sure that some of my legacy doesn't fizzle away. One thing is around how we celebrate, around the awards. There's a number of things I won't be letting go of anytime soon.
Good. So a couple of things on that then. So you're the youngest ever president. How was it? It's a very no.
I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm I was the youngest ever fellow. I was made a fellow in 2012 for my work promoting child-centered design, and I thought I was the youngest president. And Hal Mogridge, who's well in his 80s, pointed out to me he was 44 and I was 45. So he corrected me. And then Andrew Bannister was a president in the late 80s, early 90s. And anyone that knows Andrew as an examiner from up in Sheffield, he was my boss for my year out when I worked at Barnsley Council. He pointed out he was 43. So, and I was 45. So I wasn't the youngest.
I'm going to rephrase. You're the third youngest president.
Yeah.
How did it, because the impression, and it's certainly the impression of the Landscape Institute, it's quite old and very committee driven. And I guess I was trying to work out how did, when you went there to do your presentation about change and what you really pitched on it, I guess it was a room full of elderly people in the nicest possible way. I just wonder how they reacted to you and how.
Yeah, I was they called me the Y man when I arrived, because traditionally at the Institute, the formal way was you went on a working group and then a subcommittee, then a committee, then chair of a committee, and then you went onto the board. It was quite a convoluted route to becoming the president. And the structure was changed. I think maybe Noel, past president, I think it was on his watch, they changed it, which meant you didn't have to have been involved at the Institute. You need to be a chartered member. You could apply to be president. And if you weren't on one of those working groups or on a committee, you had to get, I think it's 20, 25 chartered members to nominate you. And you provide their name and their membership number. And then you could put your name in the hat for the elections. So I went to 40 thinking, okay, right, well, if 20 reply, all 40 replied with commentary, like to John Wire, a long email telling me why I should be president. Lots of people, it was fantastic. And it really inspired me. These people I've known for years who I've really admired, had my back, said, Adam, go for it. You're exactly what we need right now. And that was so important for me going in, because I didn't really know what the structure was there. And I just went in and said, why are we doing that? I don't, what's that about? And I've learned that in my career. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. And I was asking really basic ones. I didn't understand certain things and why they were done. And that helped me probably demystify a lot to members, but also simplify so much. And that's what I really tried to do, is really simplify the process there. And I know it was Noel and Merrick supported this. There's a stipend. So you apply and it's up to £20,000. And that is a contribution from the Institute to support you, which frees your time up. And that was a massive help for Andre and I to free my time up during the day. So it was almost like a Davies White project to the Institute. It gave me a few days a week. I mean, it doesn't cover it all, but it massively helps. And our elections, nominations open on the 15th of March this year, close on the 15th of April. Yeah, well, so we're looking for the next president now, so along with a number of other positions. So I'd encourage anyone out there that's a member of the Institute, and if you want to make a difference, you can make a difference. It is a great opportunity and a wonderful experience. So I'd encourage anybody that's thinking about it, look on the Institute website under elections and the whole program of, the timescales on there.
And so when would they be taken over then? So they'll be taken over in a year in July?
Yeah, so the 15th of March is when it opens. The 15th of April is when it closes, the nominations. And then the election opens on the 14th of May. And the elections then close on the 1st of June with the results announced on the 1st of July this year. So then that president will be the president-elect for 12 months. Jane's still got another year of being president. So then 2022 is July is when Jane steps down, and whoever that is then takes over.
Perfect. And losing Dan as well, who was the CEO.
So Dan, and for those of you who don't know, Dan Cook was our CEO, and he'd been there 4.5 years. I remember when Dan arrived, we had a chat, I was just a regular member then, and he said he had this 5-year vision of coming in, making the institute more inclusive, open, and looking at what was the main focus of what should the institute be about, and that is encouraging our members to make sure they protect, conserve, and enhance the natural and built environment for the benefit of everybody. And I believe that's what Dan did. He came in, so he had a long time over Christmas to think about what the next chapter of his career and life will be. And he thought, you know what, now's time to hand over the reins to somebody else. And he's now going to do higher education, focusing on climate and sustainability. And he's got a network of contacts on an international platform. You know, one of the great things Dan did was really help us forge a much stronger relationship with IFLA, the International Federation of Landscape Architects. Yeah. And that continues to go to strength to strength.
So how does Dan get replaced? How does the process, or what's the situation?
Right, yeah, so Dan is still in place until the end of April, I think. I might be wrong there. So we've, but he's kind of on gardening leave now and starting his higher education stuff. So we have Jane Swift, who is a temporary CEO who joined. I've met her a couple of times. She's brilliant, from a financial accountancy background. She's got a finger on the pulse with the numbers, which is always useful. And she's doing, I think, 3 days a week, something like that. And her focus is on operational leadership within the Secretariat. And then the position for CEO, the permanent position, will be advertised with a new job description to take us through this very, very important period of time. In 2029, the Institute will be 100 years old, LI 100. Many of you remember the 2019 year, when I was president, was LI 90. So LI 100 is also the year when we have said we are going to aim to be net zero. So it's a very important period, these next few years, and they will fly by. And we need to take action right now, in the words of Attenborough. So I'm really keen for us to look, what do we do in LI 100 to celebrate the Institute's 100 years? Well, we were at Chelsea there, so maybe we should go back. It's where we were founded in 1929. So I've got an idea for it. Whether it'll happen, I don't know.
What's the idea then, Evan? Can you share that?
Oh, well, what I'd love to see, those you know Chelsea, you've got Main Avenue, you've got the triangle at the end. I'd love us as an industry to turn that into a pocket park, a public pocket park that celebrates the best in the landscape profession. And all these different opportunities, career opportunities, all these different skills that we have, from soil science through to management, through to design, construction. I just think there's a great opportunity for us all to work together as an industry and create something there that's a real beacon to the next generation.
Good luck with that. I'm sure energy and enthusiasm will get that through. Before we sort of talk more about the future, let's just have a look then at the last 2 years. Some of your highlights then, I guess. The Attenborough at the awards was a phenomenal thing, but there's a few of them. What stands out for you?
Yeah, so nothing really tops David Attenborough, does it? You know, that was a year in the making. I was writing to him and handwritten letters back and to, and every time I asked him to come to something, I said, "Would you like to come to Chelsea?" He said, "I'd love to, but I'm in Costa Rica filming." "All right, okay. Would you like to come to the Olympic Park to our Festival of Ideas?" "I'd love to, but I'm in Madagascar filming." "Of course you are. You're 94 years old." Literally every time we arranged to meet, even just him coming over here, me every time, or me going over there, he was busy. And he said, "I'm available in November, Adam. Is there anything on?" And I was like, well, there's the LI Awards. Would you like to come to that? Thinking he'd go, "No, you're all right." And he said, "Yes, I'd love to come to your awards." He's friends with Merritt Denton Thompson, the previous president before me. And we met first thing in the morning over where the awards took place at the Troxy. And it's a big theatre there. Any of you that would have attended or seen it, it's huge. There was like 800 people there. At one point, before anyone arrived, there's just me and Sir David Attenborough sat at that table with none of the nonsense, just sat there for a couple of hours chatting about my life, about his life, about stuff, nothing to do with nature or landscape. He said everybody asks him about that. I was asking him about rugby league, because when he was involved in BBC, he introduced colour TV on BBC Two and introduced rugby league. And I'm a massive Warrington Wolves fan. So we had a chat about that. And as far as I'm concerned, he's a Warrington fan.
He is now. Other things in it, sort of that you think in your mind, and things that you left behind that you're really pleased that are in place now?
Yeah. So we had the climate crisis and biodiversity declaration in my first year, and then the action plan I launched at the end of my presidency. That was a really, really important thing, to listen to the next generation through the climate strike and bring together a group of people, working group of people, but not just the membership, from across the industry and across the world, actually, to help us forge and create that action plan, which will help us create a more sustainable future. So that was a really important thing. The biosecurity working group that I supported, hello to Ben Brace from the RHS and Harry Watkins, brilliant those two. They co-chaired the working group to create the biosecurity toolkit in collaboration with the Association Professional Landscapers and Barley and SGD. So, you know, a real collaboration there. That was something special, and I'd love to see more of those industries coming together to work on policy and position statements in the future. And I suppose the LI apprenticeship is a real highlight. So there was the campaign, the Choose Landscape. I've got my badge. I've still...
Not your T-shirt, though, is it?
Oh,
Yeah.
Jim, I wear them every day. I've got 24 of the things. I've still got them. It's still happening. You know, it never gets old. It never gets old. So Choose Landscape led to the LI apprenticeship, and I am delighted there's over 20 Landscape Institute registered practices supporting that. So we now have a thing called TMLI, so Technician Member of the Landscape Institute. So you can go and study at Capel Manor or soon Rees Heath, where I started my career, and become a technician member of the Landscape Institute. And I think it's been missing for such a long time. There's a part of our profession that has just not been acknowledged. And the LI apprenticeships are going to be a fantastic asset. So the technician level, you can go from GCSE to go and train and become a technician member of the Landscape Institute. You know, it's probably the route I may well have taken. And anyone can join the Institute as an affiliate member. It's £99 a year. You get all the benefits of the full membership, including LI Campus, the Netflix of the landscape profession. And I encourage anybody to join.
How's that going, the campus? Is it
Yeah, it's good. It's good. We've got over, well, you can imagine through the pandemic, we've filmed everything on these platforms. So they're all getting, all the webinars and CPD days are getting uploaded onto it. The next CPD is called Greener Recovery Festival on the 22nd to the 26th of March. It is really worth tuning into that. And Tony Jupiter from Natural England is speaking there, looking at net zero, net gain, natural capital, nature connectiveness. So that'll all be recorded and ends up going on LI Campus. Yeah, it's a really great asset.
And what about the idea of increasing the reach again with your affiliate nominated members? And you know, I know quite a lot of the garden design and some of the garden landscapers got involved have been nominated. How did that all come about? What's the concept behind that?
So what I realised was before I became president, there were a lot of people that studied landscape architecture at one of the accredited universities, went on the pathway and became chartered and went into garden design when they graduated and focused on it. That was kind of their bread and butter, and were totally disconnected from the LI. And I'm like, considering we were established as BAGA, the British Association of Garden Architects, by Geoffrey Jellicoe and a number of other, Sylvia Crowe, these huge names that were, you know, the sort of founders of garden design as well. And I was like, we've kind of lost that relationship. So I worked really closely with Sarah Morgan at the SGD to make sure we aligned and shared best practice, which we did and we will continue to do. And I saw the likes of John Wyer and Andrew Wilson and Marion Boswell and lots of these people, Joe Thompson, that do landscape architecture and garden design. And I thought, how can we get them involved? So I encouraged the ones that were CMLI to stand as fellows, and many of them have done and are now, and congratulations to them if they're watching. And then we had a limited edition invited route. So that meant the board agreed we could invite key people from across our industry to put themselves forward to become members of the LI, whether that be CMLI, chartered member, or the higher level, which is a fellow, FLI. And I'm delighted to say over the last couple of years, we've really opened the door and brought in an eclectic mix of people from all different backgrounds. And I'm so grateful that they accepted my invitation and are now on what we call the College of Fellows. And I believe they will be part of my legacy. I think they will carry on making sure that these ideas of making it open to everybody, to look at what the LI says on the tin, make sure it does it, and to question if we're not doing that in the future, because I can't carry on doing it on my own. So Mark Gregory is now a fellow at the Landscape Institute, and it is a fantastic achievement. He is a wonderful fella and fella, but I do believe he's key because he represents construction as well, which I felt has been lost. You know, we have all these amazing designs, but what about the construction of these spaces? What about the aftercare of them? Because that is the legacy of a quality landscape, massively.
Did you feel that the association was aloof before
It was what, sorry?
Aloof. It distanced itself.
I think I think for a long time we'd focused on certain aspects and done them incredibly well. And when you're asked to describe, you're at a dinner party and you say you're a landscape architect and you're asked to describe it, you could have 10 landscape architects, you could have another 10 landscape professionals around that table, and they would all give you a different response. They would all do something, be it impact assessments, be it protecting historic landscapes, be it AONBs, triple SIs. It could be anything. It's such a difficult profession to describe in one sentence. And I think certain areas we've really focused on, and I think other areas we hadn't. And personally, I think there was a period of time when maybe we were looking to the RIBA, the architects, and trying to be as much like them as possible. And thinking, actually, you could look at your closer neighbours and think maybe they're the ones we should be talking to a little bit more. And I have to say, Dan was key to talking to some of those other organisations. The Institute of Place Management based in Manchester is one we have a partnership agreement with now, and it is brilliant. And that's led to the High Streets Task Force. The other one is the Parks Alliance. We hadn't got a relationship with them. We now have a relationship with the Parks Alliance. Parks managers, be that your local pocket park or your recreation ground, or be that your national trust or your much wider national parks, were not represented within our profession like they should have been, and they are now. They have a voice, and I think that's so important.
Well, what about the link to the international associations? Because I see a lot more. There seems to be more communication and sharing of ideas with the international associations.
So I got to get to know IFLA, the International Federation of Landscape Architects, and we've got IFLA Europe and then IFLA World, and then there's the other areas across the planet that have got their own IFLAs. And what I realised was in the UK, we're several years ahead of many other countries. Many of the other countries don't have a professional body to represent their landscape professionals. They don't have anything. So they looked to IFLA for support. IFLA looked to the Institute and said, what are you working on? And Dan and I presented around the competency framework, around the invited routes, around the pathway to chartership. We literally said, this is how we do it in the UK. And we've worked really closely. James Hayters, the president of IFLA, I had a meeting with him, when was it? 2 weeks ago now, talking about how we can carry on that relationship. ASLA, the American Society of Landscape Architects, and they're huge, by the way, you know, 50, 60,000 members, massive, were not a member of the IFLA family. They are now, they're rejoining, which is brilliant. So I had and that's thanks to Martha Schwartz and a number of other very high profile landscape architects. And, you know, I've been on these Zooms with them and I'm kind of going, that's Martha Schwartz there. And in awe a little bit, you know, these are people as students I'd watched, and now they're phoning me up, and I'm taking what I did as president at the LI and applying that philosophy of let's just talk, let's just share best practice. And that's what we're doing on the world stage now. And it seems to be happening.
Good. Well, we're running out of time. There's a couple of things I want to talk about. So coming out of COVID, the green recovery, massive opportunity for landscaping as a whole. What's your drive and determination and desire on that?
I think sustainability needs to be at the core of everything we do. And I'm involved in a project, an initiative at the moment. I'm one of the founding trustees of it. More to come on that very soon, with a number of people that you will know, everyone will know. And we've come together to say, right, let's focus on something, and that is sustainability, to make us all at any stage of our project, no matter what we're doing, and that will include you, Jim and Lisa, and anybody involved in our industry, to question what we're doing and to make sure we're being as sustainable as possible. And I think if we have that as our number one priority, everything else will kind of unfold around us. So the green recovery post-COVID, there is this great opportunity to connect society with nature like never before. People have discovered pocket parks and green spaces on their doorsteps, particularly those who don't have gardens. This is such an important time for us. You know, I've banged on about the whole choose landscape thing. This is it. Now is the time. And I would encourage everybody to get involved. So if you're a member of the Institute, please stand for one of the different positions. That it's not just president, there's a number of other positions on the advisory council or on the board. I would encourage, if your own organization, volunteer, get involved. If you're in the construction side of it, there's Go Landscape. Really support these things. You know, we're only as strong as each other coming together. And the one thing COVID has shown us is that these small actions, when combined together, be that social distancing or wearing a mask, can make a difference. So if our industry make these small actions, we can make a difference.
Do you think the industry's joined up enough to really benefit from this and really drive this through?
Yeah, I'm an optimist. I really believe there are some brilliant people out there, and I think, you know, things need to improve. There's other areas we must get better at, but there's a willingness. There is an absolute willingness within our industry. And thanks to you, Jim, you know, what you've created here is a platform for me to stand here and talk, and David last week, and people in the future. I think it's so important that we get out there. I mean, you were telling me the viewing figures for Pro Landscaper TV are fantastic. Let's use this platform to reach the people that maybe haven't heard about what the wonderful industry is all about.
And what about just the other thing, the high street, I can't remember what the phrasing is about, regenerating the high street. What's happening there, and what's the situation with that?
So Institute of Place Management created the High Streets Task Force, and those that you might remember Cave Space and the Cave Space Enablers. So they are mentors that will help the decision makers make the right decision at that point, be it preparing a brief, be it interviewing a consultant. So the High Streets Task Force has this body of expert mentors to make sure that the right decisions are happening when we come out of COVID. And they're all over the UK. And you just Google High Streets Task Force and you'll see a little bit about it. And like I say, there are great opportunities for us all. And there are millions of pounds. I can't remember what the figure is. I should have checked. It's massive. The government have allocated a massive figure to the recovery of our high streets. And I believe that needs to be a green approach to them. Yeah.
And just go back to the event that's happening on the 22nd and to the 26th of March. Where's the details for that? And where can people find out what's going on and how to be involved?
I will. I'll give you the link that we can share in the chat for the green recovery, and people can see a little bit about it. It's the 22nd of March until the 26th. Starts at 9 in the morning till 1 p.m. It's obviously online, and it will focus around net zero, net gain, natural capital, and nature connectiveness, with the keynote speaker being Tony from Natural England. It is really worth tuning in for that.
Lovely. Adam, thank you very much. Really enjoy it. And once again, I do genuinely think you've done an amazing job at that, LI. And I guess we just hope that the enthusiasm, the energy has rubbed off and it continues to progress which I'm sure it will. But thank you very much. Well done. And really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you. All the best to you and Lisa and all your team. And thank you for being
Cheers.
a great voice for our industry. And hello to all those people that know me out there. I'm desperate to give you a cuddle. Hopefully it'll happen real soon.
Not long now. Adam, well done. Thank you very much.
All right. Take care, everybody. Stay safe.